I'd like to say a big thank you to our distinguished speaker for today, Christian. Thank you so much. We highly appreciate your wisdom and your time taken to prepare for this and to share with us your best practices and experiences in the area of cross-cultural coaching and coaching intelligence. This is indeed one of the top 10 skills that is needed by organizations as we continue to go more and more global. Even in our online connected world, we are having to deal with people all over the world in different countries. So the need has been increasing more than ever before. So everyone, this session is a monthly masterclass organized by CCMC Alumni, Certified Chief Master Coach at ITD World. I would of course like to recognize all the committee members, the Vice President and President of CCMC Alumni, Mr. Guy Rouse, for all the efforts put in to make this event a success and to make this evening happen for all of us. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the President of Certified Chief Master Coach, CCMC Alumni, Mr. Guy Rouse. Let's give him a big hand. Over to you, Guy.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Peter. Thanks for the great introduction. And really a special thanks also to ITD World for sponsoring the CCMC Alumni.
Thank you.
The CCMC Alumni, of course, is a group of coaches, master coaches, who really want to grow coaching culture everywhere. And through the Let's Coach Masters, we continue to grow our coaches and share the value of coaching to the world. Now, I know that many of you have been here before and many familiar faces, but do drop a note in the chat box. Tell us where you're from. Drop your name. A lot of people like to see where everyone is from and how many different countries we've actually touched when in this masterclass. So don't be shy. Drop your name in there and let's see. So what we're going to do is we'll have the masterclass. Then at the end of the masterclass, we have about 10 minutes with questions and answers. And so if you have some questions, put them in the chat box, but otherwise hold on to them and have a chat at the end. Now, I'm honored to introduce today's master speaker, Christian Routin. Christian Routin is a consultant trainer, executive coach. He's a transformational speaker, facilitator in cross-cultural soft skills and happiness. And he's got 2 masters, one in business administration and another master's in political science. And he's a cross-cultural baby. He's French and he has Vietnamese as well, and is a world expert in Vietnamese working culture. Now, cultural differences affect every leader and coaches all over the world, and we simply can't afford sort of the luxury of being unaware or ignoring them, because those differences are impacting every second of our interactions and our coaching. Well, today, Christian will help us to understand how to achieve success through cross-cultural coaching and using culture as a tool to achieve business objectives and so much more. So without further ado, let me pass you on to Christian Routin. A very warm welcome, Christian. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter and Guy, for your introduction. So we have a bit of time together. So something like 45 minutes. I will try to make it even shorter if possible. So we'll have more time to answer your questions and interact. What is really important for me during this presentation is to make it more interactive, because you're going to fall asleep after 5 minutes if I speak by myself. So very importantly, if you have any questions, please jump in, right, and mute, challenge me, interrupt me. That's what I really want. And I will make it really interactive to make it really interesting for you, rather than just being, very passive and listening to what I have to share. So let's start. And let's start with the start. And if we start with the start, we have to talk about life. And if you're alive, you know that life is about change, right? And as a coach, of course, what we're doing is that we're supporting that change. We're facilitating that change, right? Through our questioning and the following up of our coaching. Life is change, and life is about also choices that we make, right? And the choices of what? The choices of what experiences we want to make, right? So life, for me, if I have to define it, it's going to be with these 3 elements. So knowing that it is impacting everything we do, as well as a coach. So it's very important to start with that point. Now, if you are an expat and you're moving to another country, or if you are, let's say, a Vietnamese and you decide to work for an international company, let's say you are a manager and you're leading a meeting and working with colleagues from different countries and cultures, it's about change as well. Because you have to go from one place that you know, I would say a place where you are comfortable, a comfort zone, into a challenging zone. Now, the change is precisely when you pass from one status to another, one state to the next state. Now, the problem with cross-cultural is what? I will ask you a few questions now to understand that very well. So the first question I'm going to ask you is culture something you can touch? Is it tangible? Let's say, for example, my glasses. Is it something you can see, you can touch, or not? Just answer me. Anyone can jump in. So the best would be with a microphone rather than a chat box, because it takes a lot of time for me to read, and it's going to divert my attention. So just unmute and tell me.
So maybe the food. Maybe the food is culture.
So very good. So food is something you can touch, right? You can feel, right? So it means that maybe a part of a culture is visible, correct? So food, what else is visible? Very, very good answer. What else is visible in culture?
Gestures.
Gestures. Behaviors. Dressing, absolutely. The music, we just heard some music, so this is also culture. So clearly here, what you're telling me is that one part of the culture is visible, right? We can experience it with our 5 senses. And the list is very long. So architecture, you can feel also culture. It could be a fabric. The silk, for example, in Asia is something you're going to feel on your body. So the 5 senses will help us to experience that visible part of the culture. Now, is there a part which is not tangible as well? What do you think? If yes, what?
Yes.
Yes. Give me an example. Any example you would have of intangible part of the culture?
The way you interpret things.
The perception, exactly. And your perception and the way you interpret things, you analyze, you perceive things, right? And that perception is based on what? What would be the root of your perception?
Beliefs.
Very good. Belief.
Values.
Values, very good. So cultural values, religious values, moral values.
Experiences.
Experiences, absolutely. Assumptions, what you assume is true or not true, right? So all these elements are not visible, they're not tangible. And in your opinion, which part of the culture is the most important, the most impactful when you get into the country, another culture? Is it the hidden part, intangible, not tangible part, or the tangible part, in your opinion? Which one is the most impactful when you interact with a new country or a person from a different culture?
Intangible.
Intangible, absolutely. So it means that we compare culture with an iceberg. You have a visible part, which is roughly 10% to 30%, and the intangible part, which is invisible, 70, 90%. And the most impactful part of that culture is the invisible part, right? So it means when you step into a new country or new culture, that part is impacting you. But is it visible? No. Are you aware of it? That's my question. Do you know this? Can you tell me, for example, the list of cultural values of the country you moved in? Can you do that?
A little bit.
A little bit. Part of it, absolutely. You may name few of it, but if I had to ask you the full list, it's going to be difficult. Now, my second question is, are you aware of your own culture as well? Are you able to do that also for your own culture? If I'm asking you, for example, the list of the cultural values of your country of origin? Are you able to do that very accurately?
Not 100%.
Not 100% as well, right? So it's going to be challenging. Now, why is it challenging? That's my question. In your opinion, what makes it so difficult for you to be aware of all these assumptions, beliefs, values? Because it is yours. You were born with it.
Because you're
Yes. Tell me.
you're part of it.
It's part of you. You're part of it and it's part of you, right?
Yep.
It is something which is unconscious. It has been acquired through your social environment, through your family, through the school, through the interaction with all the people around you since your birth, right? That's why it is ingrained in you, but it's difficult for you to say what is what, to define it precisely. When do you become aware of your own culture? When that moment happens, there's a moment in your life where you become aware of your own culture, more than if you were staying into your country. When will you start to become aware of your own culture and all these hidden elements of the culture?
When you live it.
Exactly. When you are living your country or culture of origin and you are facing another country, another culture. Because then you start to see what?
It's different.
Is different. You start to experience the cultural differences, and then you become more aware of who you are, and then you start to discover that it's not everywhere like in your country, right? So here, what I'm telling you by asking all these questions is awareness. The first step of change is awareness. Any change. There's 5 steps that I identified. The first step is awareness. Are you aware of what you're doing, how you're doing it, if you're doing it well or not? Are you aware of what you're doing not so good, not so well that you should stop doing? Or are you doing something well that you should do more? Or you start to do something that you should do, but you haven't been doing yet? Awareness. First step of change. The second step of change is accepting. Accepting those differences, accepting that you are who you are and they are who they are. Accepting the situation, accepting that you are doing certain things and you're not doing other things. So that's very important. So in that sense, when we touch to cross-cultural and culture, and if you want to help people to perform that change, moving from your safe zone, comfort zone, your own culture to a new culture, then you have to create awareness of what you've been doing right now, and awareness of how people are doing things in the place where you're going to, or you're going to be interacting with people. So it's very important. That awareness is intrinsic into the change, into the process. So if I'm giving a training on cross-cultural, and if I just give, information, passing on the knowledge to the person, is not assured. I will not be so impactful in creating that awareness and creating that change. So I need it, and so it is something I realized very quickly when I was doing my job. When I started 10 years ago, I started just by following, the manual, the information that I had, and doing it quite academically. But very quickly, I started to input also my own experience as an expat, and also my personal experience living in Vietnam with the people I was teaching you. And naturally, I had to integrate the coaching side into my work. It was clearly for me that training was not enough. Information is not enough to convince people to create that awareness and to convince people that you need to adapt to the new environment, the new cultural conditions. And I started to do that naturally. And what happened during that process is that I'm working with many training companies, international training companies in that field. And what happened is that these training companies started also to be aware of that and integrate that into their offer, their training offer, and their methodology. And in fact, when they asked me, when they train us to do that into our delivery, I was already prepared because I've been doing that already for years. Because for me, it was the obvious way to create that awareness and help people to transfer from one status to the next status, to one culture, and adapt to the new culture. So that would be my introduction to the subject. Now, I will introduce myself. And what I want you to do is to listen to my introduction. This is the introduction I use in the opening of my training coachings. And I will ask you a few questions about it. Okay, you ready? So I was born in Saigon. And you see, I'm French. My accent is very French. My name is very French, Christian Routin. But I'm not completely French. In fact, I'm half French. I'm a quarter Vietnamese and a quarter Italian. I had a Sicilian grandmother and a Vietnamese grandmother. And I was born in Saigon, where I was raised by my Vietnamese family. So my first culture is Vietnamese. My first language is Vietnamese. And I lived here until I was 9. And in April 75, so what happened in April 75 in Saigon? The 30th of April.
The Americans left.
Exactly. So they left a bit before, but the last Americans left, and it was the end of the American war. And just before, on the 24th, I took the last commercial flight out of the country from Tan Son Nhut Airport to Charles de Gaulle Airport. And when I moved to France, I was 9. So you can imagine that it's very different. So I had to adapt to that new country. So my second culture is French, second language as well. And at home, it was Vietnam because I was still living with my Vietnamese family, but outside it was France. I studied there. I got 2 masters. I was 23. It was 1990. And my first job was in Hanoi. So I flew back to my country for the first time in 1992, 2 years working at the French embassy as a linguistic attaché, helping people to improve their French. After these 2 years, I came back to Paris, to France, and I stayed there for a few years, but I wasn't so comfortable with the culture. Now, there was some cultural clash between the Vietnamese side and the French side. I was sitting between 2 seats and wasn't very comfortable. So I decided to move in and out to other countries, 9 other countries, Europe and Asia, until I decided in 2009 to come back to Saigon. So it was another Vietnam. So I knew Vietnam before 75, 1982, very communist country, very poor country. A very isolated country, and then 2009, then a new country again, opening up, new market economy, changing, developing. First, I was teaching a bit of French and English for 3 months, and then I had a full-time job as a recruitment manager for Navigos Group, which is a very famous local recruitment company, and I had a team of 8 Vietnamese. And very quickly, when I started to do that job, I realized something. First, the expats in my company, but also very quickly outside my company, I noticed that they were struggling with Vietnamese working culture. Like everyone was complaining, oh, Vietnamese, why they're doing this and they do that. And it was very negative, what I heard around. First lesson, while for me, it was quite natural, instinctive, and I was very quickly successful with my team. So there was a clash there. Why I am so comfortable where everyone is struggling. Second lesson I learned very quickly is that I had to develop my people. I had to spend 1/3 of my time to develop their soft skills in general or their knowledge in general to make them more performant. So when I moved out from that company, I was thinking, what can I do with my experience? So more than 30 years of experience in business management, education, hospitality, use that to help Vietnam, to help expats to develop their skills to be more successful. So I moved into the cross-cultural field, soft skills, and also happiness, because I was very happy to come back to Vietnam. So I help expats to understand Vietnamese, and I help Vietnamese to understand expats. I help Vietnamese to develop their soft skills when working for international companies, and happiness, everyone to be more happy. So that's what I'm doing now. everything that Guy was telling you, all these functions. And this is how I introduce myself. Now, my question to you is, from your point of view, from your cultural point of view, how my presentation looks to you? Is it something familiar? Is it comfortable to hear what I'm saying? Or is it something strange and awkward? Tell me. Anyone can jump in. So from only horizon and cultural background. What do you think about my presentation? Tell me.
Yeah, quite complicated.
Yes.
Cross-culture in one organization. Variety of experiences.
Yes.
Perception about Vietnamese people before
Yes.
1975 and after that. Something like a cultural shock.
Yes.
When first time you were in Vietnam and next time you came back Vietnam, just like kind of culture shock.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So you feel that there's an element of culture in it, right? Now, I would precise my question. If you are from the Western culture, do you think that my presentation is professional or unprofessional?
I wouldn't say professional or unprofessional, but it's very personal. And I think in the Western world, you would be much more focused on I did this as a job and then that as a job, and I achieved this and I achieved so. Very
good. Excellent remark. That's correct. From the Western point of view, you know, we're focusing on transactional. We are focusing on results, on objectives and delivery, right? And the personal side is something awkward when we are in a professional context. It's out of place because we're just focusing on the work, right? Now, from the Asian point of view, what do you think about my presentation? So we have Asians, I guess, in a group here, so it would be interesting to hear the feedback.
It's very personal.
Personal. Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very clear. I focus and I make sure that I present the personal side. Now, one last thing I'm going to ask you. If I am in the Asian cultural context and I'm presenting myself in the business context, Asian cultural business context, there's two elements I forgot to mention about myself in that presentation. What are they? So if I have to be more personal even, what would I give? Two additional information that I expected from my Asian counterparts in my presentation.
About your family.
Yeah, family.
Family, very good. My family status. So I am not married. I have a Vietnamese girlfriend and have a son who is 10 years old, and his name is Jules, and his Vietnamese name is Minh Khoi, which means bright and intelligent, which puts a lot of pressure on him, but that's her mother choice. Second information about myself that I omitted in an Asian context. What is it?
Preferences of places that you like in Vietnam, the food, or, you know.
I could expand even more, but it will be very long as a presentation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, you know. Yeah.
Very good point. It is something I can expand after my presentation within the first minutes of interaction, conversation with my counterpart. Very good. But there's a second very important information an Asian needs to hear from me in that context, in that situation.
Sorry to say this, but maybe your religion or belief. I don't know.
No, it's not. It could be
your
but it's
position.
Connection.
What about your
title? The title. So I said that. I said that. In fact, I didn't detail it, but because Guy presented me, so coach. I'm a trainer, a speaker, etc. Yes, you're right. The position is very important because position is related to one cultural value. Family is a cultural value. Now I forgot to use another cultural value, which is very important in Asia when you work with people.
How about habits or interests?
Yes, that is very personal also, but even more important than that. That's good, but even more important that an Asian needs to know. So it should be easy. We have Asians here. Come on, guys. Connection, relationship I have, network I have. Yes. That's important, but even more important, this is a question they have in their mind. Sometimes they ask you, but sometimes they don't, because you are from the West, so you will not understand that information.
Have you eaten yet?
Very good point. Food is very important in Asia. Food is
age.
love.
What you are passionate about, or
Age.
your
Education.
Education is very important. Even more right now in that situation, age. I heard it. Very good. I don't know who said age, but you said something very, very important.
Yeah, but you said that you were 9 in 75 when you left Vietnam, so you gave it away.
Yeah, and you said that 1990 you were 23.
Ah, yeah. There you go.
You see, I gave some hints. I gave some hints so people can make the calculation eventually, indirectly, right? But it's even better if I give it. Why I should give these two very personal, I heard that word, very personal information you have to give about yourself. Why? Because right away, from the first second, you are in interaction with Asians, even in the business context, you need to develop personal relationship. Because Asians are relationship oriented. If you want to work with Asians, the prerequisite, the first step you need to build is personal relationship. Then only people will trust you, support you, share information with you, and do things with you, whatever you want to do with them. While us in the West, we're transactional and we don't need that. Or if we need it, it's going to be shallow relationship, again, a transactional relationship. All right. I need you, I connect to you because I need you to deliver what I need to deliver. So I need to go there. And these two information are related to two cultural values, which are very important in Asia, which are connected to hierarchy, which is connected to one of the strong roots, if not the strongest root of culture in Asia, which is Confucianism. The first one is family. Strongest cultural value in Asia, family. So if I want to know you, I need to know your family and your family status. That's why I give it. In the West, that's strange. I mean, you need anyone for business the first time you start to talk about your family, they're gonna think, oh, what is wrong with this guy? Second, respect of elders. We respect elders because elders, they have more power. Why do they have more power? Because they are older. And when you're older, you are wiser, you're more knowledgeable, and knowledge is power. That's why education is so important in Asia. So here, right away, knowing that, you are connecting to people and you're being efficient doing work. In a business context, you are being efficient because you're impacting the situation, because you're very quickly connecting to people, building up relationship, which will be used later on to deliver whatever you need to deliver with that person. You use two cultural values to your advantage. What does it mean? It means, in short, that the first minute of interaction that you have in any country, culture is hitting you, and is hitting you hard. Because let's say you are from the West, you move to Asia, you do business, you meet your counterpart for the first time, and you miss that step. You just get to business. Not personal, let's get to business. I don't need to share all this information. And then, okay, so when is the delivery? So what are you going to do? And you are missing the point. You are being inefficient in what you are doing, thinking that you're doing what you should do. Because in your culture, this is a must do. Where in Asia, it's reverse. So it's terrible. What I'm telling you is terrible because you are thinking you're doing the right thing, like getting to the point, getting to business, down to business, while you are doing exactly the contrary of what you should do in that situation in Asia. What do you think about that? What are reactions you have about this? It's true, not true?
Well, for some people, it can be very, very challenging. And if you're working maybe for a very large, very, very Western multinational, you may have been schooled and maybe their internal culture is to do something in a very Western way. And then you have to act in a very different way and you may not know how to do it. And even if you know how to do, if you've got some of your head office counterparts sitting alongside you, they look at you rather strange. So it's going to be hard to keep everybody happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rick, you're right. Because here, let's complicate the situation. You have your Western boss close to you. You have your counterpart who is, let's say, Vietnamese. It's already complicated. Now, let's complicate things even more. You are in a situation where you have 4 or 5 people from 5 different cultures. That adds to the complexity of the challenge, clearly. All right? Now, I will get back to that point. Clearly here, what I'm telling you, if you're unaware of who you are as a cultural person, the way you're doing things, and the way the locals are doing things, you're in trouble. And the higher level you are, the bigger are the trouble, because the bigger are the mistakes you're going to make. They'll be much more costly, correct? Now, let's do a small exercise very quickly. Imagine this is your personal life, okay? This hand. And this is your professional life, this hand. Now, in a working context, in a professional context, show me how comfortable you are in bringing the 2 elements. Just show me with your hands in front of your camera. If you can open your camera, show me how it's going to be. Okay, so Rick is touching, right? All right, so Vincent, show me. It's touching also quite close. Let's say the people I can see on camera here. So guys like, oh, not touching. I have a bit of distance, right? So clearly here, let me see. Oh, okay. Oh, it's funny because some Asians are keeping distance also. Huh? Not all the Asians are touching the two elements. That's interesting. Okay, Gregory touching, like intertwined even, right? Okay, Kok touching as well. So that's interesting. Now, in your opinion, in Asia, how far it should be? Show me now in Asia, if you have to work in Asia with Asian people, how close it's going to be. So I would say in Africa also, in Latin America also, Central, Southern America, Southern Europe, Latin Europe, Middle East, how close it's going to be. So let's say Vietnam or Asia to be more specific. How close it should be if you want to be successful at work. Very good guy. Yes, Rick, yes, everyone, it should be like this. That's how close you have to be with people at work, in business. Now, when I show this, what do I show? I show you that the personal is also personal. It's the same face of the same situation. 2 faces of the same situation. So when you touch me as a person, you touch me as a professional. When you touch me as a professional, you touch me also as a person. That's what I'm telling you. There's no differences. And that introduced a new cultural value in Asia, which is a face-saving behavior. I have a public face. I have a social reputation. So if you touch me as a professional in a public place, you are touching also my personal reputation and face. That's what it means. And if you destroy my reputation in a social place, that's the worst thing you can do to me, because the most important thing I possess as an Asian is my social reputation. And if you do that to me by giving me, for example, a very direct negative feedback in public, you make me lose face, I become your enemy. Behind your back, I will act against you. I will talk against you. I will rally people against you. So imagine you're from the West, you're very direct in communication. You give direct feedback because that's how we improve things, correct mistakes, and advance quickly on the issues. You do that without building up personal relationship with people. In your first meeting with your team, second meeting, third meeting, you start to, give that very direct, confrontational feedback, which are damaging people's face. In no time, you just step into your position. In 1 month, your whole team is your enemy. Now, good luck for the next 2 or 3 years of your position as a CEO in Asia. Good luck, because everyone now is rallying against you, and you don't even understand why. Because the next time you're going to meet your people, nobody's looking straight into your eyes. Nobody's answering your questions. If they have to answer, they're going to give the minimum information. It's going to be very distant and impersonal. And that's how it's going to be until the rest of your stay. So this is just one example of how culture can impact you. So we still have a bit of time. I'm going to go very quickly to share my screen and share some information with a visual support. So this is a presentation I give for 1.5 up to 3 hours to companies about cultural awareness and the 14 essential cultural differences between the West and Asia and Vietnam. So very quickly here, you see the 14 cultural differences. The first one that I just shared with you with the example of my presentation, saying that in Asia, we are relationship oriented. In the West, we are transactional. This is one of the 14 cultural differences. And that element, that example, that cultural value, that difference is one of the top 2 which are impacting you the most at work. Among the 14, there's 6 major ones impacting you. And among the 6 major ones, there's 2 very big ones with huge impact from what I see for the last 10 years. It's first, the fact that in the West, we are transactional. In Asia, we are relationship oriented. Huge gap. This is who you are, and this is where Asians are. That's a gap. So you need to go there if you want to be successful in Asia. Second biggest gap, we are egalitarian. We are flat managers. We empower people, right? And the boss is at the same level as the employee. In Asia, we are not egalitarian. We are reversed. We are opposite. We are hierarchical, right? The boss is at the top and all the way down is the staff. There's a power distance between that. This is the second biggest difference impacting us at work. Huge impact. I can see that in terms of leadership and also teamwork and work in general, working culture in general. So how much time do we have left? Let me check. So I still have like 5 minutes, correct? Right, Guy?
Like 10 minutes will be fine.
10 minutes?
Like
okay.
10 minutes will be fine.
So this is another tool I use also to create awareness. This is a simple interaction I use. So I ask 2 questions. So let me ask you these 2 questions. So you can answer whatever goes through your mind based on your experience, because you are all intercultural managers, right? Global managers. So it should be easy for you to answer that question. What do you think? You can answer whatever goes through your mind, based on your experience. There's no correct answer, so I reassure you. So all answers will be contributing to the presentation.
Integration.
Integration, okay. Integration of what?
Relationships.
Relationships and many other things, right? Integration is a very large concept. Very good, yes.
Diversity.
Diversity, which can be challenging, yes, when we're interacting together. If you had to give only one word now, I direct a bit your thoughts. I go fast a bit, because we don't have much time. If you had to only give one concept, one word to answer that question, what would be that word or that concept?
Communication or miscommunication.
So communication is a huge part of the answer of that concept. It is a component which is really, really important for us, because this is a tool we use as leaders, right? Communication is a tool we use. So I would say, yes, intercultural communication is very, very important, very impactful, a big barrier, but larger than communication.
Leadership.
So one more time, leadership, yes, is part of it. It's part of that big concept, is one element, very good. What else? I heard it.
Government.
Cultural differences.
Cultural differences. So when you say cultural differences, you say culture. You say culture. So that's the answer. So that's very interesting because I'm talking to very high level people here in this room, right? I mean, you have years of experience as global managers, but you are still struggling with the answer. That's interesting. Like no one straight right away gave me that answer. But the problem, the biggest obstacle right now in what you're doing is culture. That's your biggest obstacle. So it's not me who said that. It's a quote from Mr. Edward T. Hall. You can see his picture here. He's an American anthropologist and also a great researcher and contributor to the intercultural field. You see, awareness is a key word here. Now I have a second question for you because you are all also global manager. We are in the 21st century. Now, what would you think would be the most valuable skill for you in your situation right now that will make a real big difference? I would say a condition
adaptability.
Adaptability.
I would say adaptability.
Very good answer. Adaptability to what? To a different culture. To different
cultural differences.
Cultural differences. Very good. So I make it short here. I could expand, of course, the discussion here. But let's go fast. It's a correct answer. I give you here the answer. The number one most valuable skill for the 21st century manager is the ability to successfully work across cultures. And it is an extract from an article published in the Harvard Business Review. And if you look at the surveys of global HRs, like global companies, they are giving that information. They say if this is one of the top 5 or top 10 skills for global managers right now, the ability to adapt to another culture, to be flexible, and to use the local culture to your advantage to advance your business objectives. Because you do it a certain way and the locals are doing it a different way. If you want to deliver your objectives in that new environment, you need to understand the differences, the local ways, and adopt the local ways to deliver your result. Because we know that people are delivering, not you. Your people are delivering the results. So you need that skill right now. And that skill is, I'm going to write it in the chat box, is called cross-cultural skills. So you can read it in the chat box, cross-cultural skills, or we call that also cultural intelligence. That's what you need now to be successful in this new environment. Very quickly now, also to advance a little bit the information. If you want to be successful, yet let's say in your country or culture of origin, do you need a high IQ? Tell me, or not? Or you can be a complete idiot. Does it help or not? Exactly. You need IQ, of course, reasoning, logic, right? Not everyone has it, but you need EQ, very good. AQ, very good. Adversity quotient, ability to react to difficult situations, challenges, resiliency. What else? What other Q do you need? Tell me. That's good. It's excellent. Please write down it in the chat box. SQ. What is SQ? Tell me. SQ. Social intelligence. Yes. People skills. Right. Ability to connect to people very quickly, build a relationship. So that's what I call RQ, relationship quotient. Ability to build very quickly, deep relationship with people. Social skills, social intelligence. Very good. Do you need PQ? PQ, psychological quotient. Understand people's psychology very quickly. Before you do something, you say something, you know how people will react. You will need that. Very important for us. And the list can be long, right? We can develop that list. I'm sure you have other Qs in the queue. So this you need, that would be enough for you in your own culture, right? To be successful. Now, if you move out from that culture, you go to another country, let's say, or you're running a multicultural team, you need one more Q. That Q is the CQ, cross-cultural quotient, cross-cultural skills, cultural intelligence. That's what you would need to be successful in that global multicultural environment, whatever it is. Now, it means that, let's get back the example of the meeting where you have a lot of people, right? You have people from different cultures, right? So you're running the show. Let's say you run the meeting. Let's say I'm French, and here I have a Vietnamese, there I have an American, over there I have an Indian, and in the corner there I have an African. My culture is French. So I step in as a French, right? Now I'm interacting with the Vietnamese. If I want to be efficient during that hour or that few minutes I'm interacting with Vietnamese, what I need to do, this is my culture, let's say. I need to switch my cultural code. Let's say I change the way I cross my arms, and then I interact with Vietnamese using the Vietnamese cultural values to be efficient and to have maximum impact in that interaction with the Vietnamese. Now, I move to Vietnamese cultural code, and I finish talking with that colleague, and I move to the American colleague, which is opposite on the frame of culture. So I need now to switch again the cultural code and change and move to the American cultural code to be efficient with that American in that interaction. And I do that again with the Indian and with the other colleagues. And I do that constantly. I shift cultural codes during that hour of interaction for maximum impact and efficiency in my work. If I'm able to do that, switch cultural codes, French, Vietnamese, American, like this, I have and I master cross-cultural skills. I have cultural intelligence because I understand the different ways of that person, and I can use that way to advance my objective and advance my results. This is really when you master the cross-cultural skills or cross-cultural or cultural intelligence. So I'm going to stop here. I could say much more, but I'm going to stop here and very importantly, interact with you. So please challenge me, tell me I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong, give me your opinion. It's open. Everybody, please jump in. What do you think? What are your reactions? Any questions? Tell me.
Let's get the ball rolling, and I would say, Christian, a fantastic discussion. Actually, very, very interesting. It's I would say in your recent LinkedIn article, which you had on your work in Vietnam, it stated that there was it's better to prevent than to heal. And I think that was an excellent advice that you had. But if someone was to have made this cultural mistake, what is the one thing you could advise that person could do to rebuild the bridge? Yes. As quickly as possible, or should we just throw ourselves off the bridge?
So very, very good question. So I find myself, of course, in that situation where I'm hired after the CEO is in place for a year and is making a lot of mistakes. And you know who is hiring me? The Vietnamese HR is hiring me. And why they do that? Because they get complaints, of course, of a Vietnamese staff about the ways he's communicating and the way he's doing things, he's leading. To the point that they say, okay, that's really bad. The situation is so bad. It's impacting people because you have people leaving the company. You have decreasing of motivation, engagement. I mean, there's a lot of impact, right? Productivity is going down, etc. So, and I step in then 1 year later, instead of training that person upon arrival, you know, to when he arrives in the country. So then I go through the same process, but I have much more material to work with because he's got 1 year of experience interacting with the locals. So he's got a lot of stories. He got a lot of examples. And I'm delighted, you know, of course, to use that experience and integrate that into our interaction. because these are materials to create awareness, of course. So I use that material. I learn a lot, of course, on the way, and I use that material to help that person to become aware of all the mistakes he had made along the way. And I had a lot of, so I'm very excited, of course. I have a lot of satisfaction when I can reverse the situation. And I hear afterward that, you know, people integrating these mistakes that have been done and integrating the new ways and changing their ways, and the reaction is very quick. I mean, they can return the situation in a very, very short time if they do the right thing very quickly. So it is possible to do it, right? I would say in Asia, there's one mistake which is very difficult to go back on, is when you make people lose face. That is the limit I would put to that. Very good question, Guy. Thank you for asking. Anyone, please.
Yeah, this is Floris speaking. Thank you for the interesting sharing. I would be interested in learning about, you know, what is the easiest mistake to make as a coach in terms of cultural differences.
Of course. So Floris, very, very good question. The temptation is very strong to give people solutions. Why? Because as a coach, you met the same situation. You experienced that as a professional. I experienced all these situations as a professional before becoming a trainer and a coach. And I built some solutions which are proven, which are working, right? So the danger and the temptation is to give them very quickly the solutions, right? Instead of, you know, creating awareness, putting them into the challenge and asking them to use the cultural values, using the local culture to build their own solutions. This is the biggest trap we have. It's very tempting to do it. That would be my answer. Very good question, Floris. But that's a typical trap we have as coaches in general. That's a typical trap. So, any more questions? Tell me.
Yeah, Christian.
Yes,
Rick. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the great talk again. Good to hear it. You said, or we learned, that the greatest skill that people need is this cross-cultural skill ability. Okay. So as companies grow, irrelevant of where on the planet they are starting from, let's say you take two countries starting with the opposite ends of the world, they are their own cultures. And as they grow into other countries and they start working together, how far do people need to shift?
Exactly.
Does the person in one country flip to interact with the other person, or does the other person flip to interact?
Exactly.
So do we meet in the middle, or do we go one way or the other way, or is it a flip-flop all the time?
Very good question. Very important question. And in fact, to answer that question, I answer that question when I present the objective of my workshop. I created a workshop, a 2 days workshop, where I put foreigners, expats, and Vietnamese together for 2 days to help each side understand the other side. And I'm facilitating the exchange of perception and information. And I introduce this workshop with my objective. So I ask their objectives, of course, as well, but I give my objective, and my objective is very simple. That's what I want you to reach at the end of these 2 days. First, I will help you to become aware of who you are as a cultural person. What is your cultural position? And to do that, I help you to understand the roots of your culture, the cultural values driving your behaviors. And we have a tool also, it's a questionnaire to build your personal cultural profile with 40 questions. And then we establish the cultural position of the other people, right? The other side. Right? Let's say I'm expat here, and here is the Vietnamese. Why the Vietnamese are staying there? Again, roots of culture, cultural values. And then we will compare the two positions, cultural value by cultural value, to reveal all the cultural differences. Let's say, oh, I'm relationship oriented, or I am transactional. That's one element. But now there's 14 elements, right? So let's compare one by one and see what are the gaps. So maybe on some elements, some cultural values, there's a small gap. Maybe on some others, there's a big gap. And we can measure that gap with that element. So we can see if there's a big gap. If there's a big gap, of course, there's a lot of impact. Small gap, less impact. So let's be aware of that. That creates awareness. Now, if you ignore or you don't do anything about these cultural values, they will not disappear by chance, by miracle. They are still there, meaning that they're still impacting you on the daily basis. The whole organization is being impacted for every interaction. Imagine you multiply that by the number of people, the number of days in a year. Now, how do we do then? How can we bridge the gaps? That's your question, Rick. So if you're an expat, you cannot change. You can stay where you are and not saying, "Oh, hey, this company is Western. The working culture of this company, that's the corporate culture is Western. I'm Western, so that's the way to do. I stay there, and you have to move." So I see that in companies. I see expats having that attitude, right? And they stay there and they say, "Oh, you have to do it my way," and they stay there and they wait until they leave, and nothing is happening. I see that. I've seen that for the last 10 years. Now you need to adapt to the local culture because, hey, okay, it's a Western company. You are Western, but hey, we are in Vietnam, and your employees are Vietnamese, right? So you need to adapt. You need to shift. Now they're going to shift, even if they do the best. They're going to stop somewhere in the middle because there's some values from Vietnam they can integrate, some other values they cannot integrate, and some personal values they want to keep. So you cannot go all the way. You cannot become completely Vietnamese, right? So you're going to stop at best somewhere in the middle. Now, if you stop in the middle, there's still a gap. And that gap now has to be bridged by the Vietnamese. Because, okay, we're in Vietnam, yes. Most of my colleagues are Vietnamese, yes. But this is not a Vietnamese company. This is a global company, a Western company. The culture is different. And some of my colleagues are expats. They have a different culture. So I need to adapt also as Vietnamese. So we need to help also the local staff to shift and adapt to the corporate culture of the company and help them to do that. And as leaders, you're an agent of change. This is one of your principles and prerogatives, privilege, but also responsibility. So the leaders have to reach out to their staff and help them to cover their share of the gap. And if everyone is meeting in the middle, and create that cultural mix, we take what is good in the West, we should keep, and we can integrate. We keep it, we use it. We cannot take all the values from Vietnam away. There's some values we have to keep and integrate into our corporate culture in our leadership. Let's say family, for example. Family in Asia, you cannot take that away from a company. You cannot, simply can't. It is so powerful that everything is family in Asia. Government, administration, military, business, leadership, you name it. So one example where you need to integrate that local cultural element into your mix of culture, right? So you're going to make a choice. You're going to make a choice. You're going to make a mix. You create a mix. What can I take, which is easy to integrate? What I'm going to take on this side, and create a cultural mix. And in the middle, if everyone is meeting in the middle, that's where the success is. Why? Because everyone is comfortable. When you have people being comfortable in the working environment, in any environment, these people are very productive. We know that as leaders. And culture is a very important element to create that comfort, where I'm comfortable being who I am, behaving the way I behave, so I can deliver and do whatever I need to do. That's where success is. So it is a choice. You need to choose what cultural values you're going to take in the West, in the local, and create that mix. And I would finish by saying, this is one of the biggest mistakes. I keep on repeating it. Nobody's listening. When you have a head office in Oklahoma, you create your corporate culture in Oklahoma, and you're working in 120 countries in the world. The mistake you're doing is that you take that corporate culture and you impose it to the rest of the world. And it simply doesn't work because some of your cultural values in your corporate culture are going against the local cultural values of the country where you are. So you simply cannot ask people to do that because it's against their strongest cultural values. So you need to create a local cultural mix where you take what is good and possible to transfer into your corporate culture and mix it with the local culture. So you need to create a local mixed corporate culture so your local entity can thrive in that cultural context. That's my answer.
Wow.
Hello. I would like to follow on what you just said about comfort and give even an example of what you say.
Yes.
I'm in West Africa,
Yes.
Guinea, and lately I've been working for Lafarge Holcim. It's the #1 building material company in the world.
Yes.
And they are over in 80 countries. So in the anti-bribery procedures, it is forbidden to accept a gift.
Yes.
And here in Africa,
I know.
in my country, personally, 95% Muslims, if you do not accept a gift from people, you will never deal with them again. So what you do?
Exactly.
You have to accept a gift over here. You absolutely have to accept a gift. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your customers, but you have to declare them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's a very good example, Amadou. So Lafarge is a French company, West Africa. So Africa is very close to Asia, relationship oriented as well. Very important. Gift giving is very important to build up relationship, maintain relationship. Absolutely important. Now, the question is, can Lafarge change that in his policy or not? If it's possible, let's do it, right? If it's not possible for legal reasons, possibly, then the local representative of Lafarge need to explain that to their counterparts, to their business partners, right? So then it is your also duty to understand the different practices, the cultural differences again, the importance of giving and relationship, and explain to them that, you know, I understand the importance of that, but I cannot do it because of the policy of the law. And this is not my decision. I had to abide to that policy and that law, to explain to the locals that it's not because I don't want to do it, it's because I cannot do it. And find a different way then to build up relationship and to maintain that relationship. So you need to be creative in that sense. But you can only be creative if you understand already the cultural differences, your culture and the local culture. Then can you be more efficient in reaching your goal. So we have the same problem in Vietnam. Many companies cannot make gift, or the value of the gift is limited in terms of value because of anti-bribery laws, etc. So I understand that very, very clearly. So you have to find other ways then to build up a relationship and to maintain that relationship. There's other ways, and you need to know these ways and practice these ways. Very good question, Amadou, as well. Good example.
And since you speak French, we look for virtue, right? And Socrates said, la vertu est le juste milieu entre deux extrémités fâcheuses, l'une par excès, l'autre par défaut.
Exactement, c'est très juste. C'est vrai. Et ça s'applique aussi, it's very true, and it can be applied also to culture. Virtue, huh? You're talking about the virtue, right? So virtue is cultural. What is a virtue in one culture might not be a strong virtue in another culture, right? So, for example, in Asia, one very strong virtue is respect, because it's connected to hierarchy. And we need to respect people's face, people's position, and also people's age, and respect also members of the family, right? These are the four fundamental elements, expressions of hierarchy in Asia. Family, elders, position, power, and also the last one I forgot is the teacher. The teacher also is in a position of power because he detains knowledge. That's why education is a very strong cultural value in Asia. So these are the four expressions of hierarchy. And so respect is connected to culture, because cultural value and hierarchy. So this is very personal.
Fantastic.
It's very personal.
Christian, I think we're going to leave it there. Unfortunately, we run out of time. But it's been great. And thank you all for the questions, everyone. And I would just say, in the end, you pointed out a very important point that cultural awareness is not always visible. A substantial portion is below the level of what we see and what we can feel and touch. And I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said the Asian and the Western side cultures are very, very different. And it makes it a bit of a minefield for when you go into it's not only the culture from country, but also the culture of how people were brought up. Even within the own country, you have many different cultures within one country. And I think that's especially when you come to coaching, is building that rapport, growing people, and building those relationships is so very important. Otherwise, it creates this cultural barrier that you talked of. So again, don't let culture affect you, and above all, don't ignore it. And the greatest success is achieved basically through cultural awareness. So, Christian Routin, thank you for your thought-provoking masterclass, and really supporting this alumni's drive to and their mandate to reach 100 million leaders worldwide.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity, Guy. And also, thank you everyone for listening and spending that time and asking all these questions. Exactly. Be aware of your own culture, be aware of the local culture, and leverage on the local culture to reach your local goals, right? Because the local ways are different. If you don't know them and you don't use that to your advantage, you don't leverage on that to deliver your results, then you will be impacted in your success. That's the final word.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Dr. Peter was not able to end tonight and to make the close because of pressing. He had to jump out for a specific reason, unfortunately. And so really just a big thank you to you all for being here and for supporting us. Basically, I would say perhaps if the single action out of today's masterclass, I would challenge you all to, those who enjoyed the masterclass, do something today to spread the greatness of coaching to the world and support this alumni to encourage coaching culture everywhere. Because through coaching, we can grow people, we can build that understanding and that acceptance and awareness of people. And with that, again, a big thank you, Christian Routin. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening and asking you all the questions. Yeah. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye. Bye, Angela.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, Dr. Katz.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you, Christine, for a wonderful session.
My pleasure.
Hi, Dr. Kat.
Thank you for following.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Vincent.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Routin. Christian.
Bye.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye, Rick. See you soon.
Yes, see you, Christian. You're still in Saigon.
Very close, very close.
We need to get together. We're allowed to go out.